Here I go, here I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of The Take. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson, of course, and in today's episode, I'm not at my house. I had to leave Orlando, guys, for the hurricane, so we're behind me is like some of the bands of the storm or whatever, but I'm with my guy Keese, who's watching the cameras right now. We had to get out of there. As everybody, stay safe, seriously, for this hurricane. It's supposed to be really, really bad. So I'm praying for the people in Tampa and things like that. And we are talking about NFL, so hopefully the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can, be good to play at Raymond James for the rest of the year. So just keep those people in your prayers, and hopefully everything goes well. It's about to hit today, so. But let's go ahead and get some football. So my Dallas Cowboys actually got a win on Sunday Night Football, surprisingly. I was a little shocked. We didn't score a touchdown in the entire first half. We didn't score until the fourth quarter a touchdown. So I was a little surprised about that. But Dak Prescott, he came through. He has now 15 game-winning drives, the most since 2016. And the play he made was actually pretty spectacular.
It's a miss on my part. Was halfway in between running it up the middle and throwing it, trying to throw it low before the safety came back, and just wanted one more up at it. And luckily we had the fourth down, and it was special to get it back to Tolbert. He did a great job of coming across the field, getting open. Offensive line did a great job on that play, allowing me to stay in the pocket. And as you said, just the persistence and resilience of the team just really showed in there, showed on that drive.
Yeah, I think Dak put it pretty well. The resiliency for sure. I mean, we were missing a lot of guys. We were missing DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, and then also Nealand came in to fill in for DeMarcus Lawrence, and he got hurt right away. So we had a lot of guys banged up, and we had Brandon Cooks on offense not playing as well. So we had to have a lot of guys step up, and I mentioned Rico Dowdle. He was a guy who stepped up. He led the Cowboys in rushing. He got me 18 fantasy points. Thank you. I'm actually 5-5 in my fantasy league, so if you guys care to stay updated with that, I finished toilet bowl the last 2 years. So yeah, that's that. But this is Dak Prescott's second 300-yard game this year. And there's a lot of comparisons between him and Romo right now, all these fourth quarter drives and things like that. I'm not impressed with these fourth quarter drives because I want to see Dak Prescott play consistently good for the first three quarters. I don't want to be sitting here having him throw 2 interceptions in the same game in 2 different days. He's actually the first player ever to do that. So that's not a great stat to have at all. So I was a little disappointed in that. And that's the one thing I've really looked at Dak Prescott and been like, man, you need to clean up those interceptions, brother. I mean, I know we're 3-2. We got smacked by the Ravens, and then we got smacked by the Saints, 2 very good football teams. And then we beat the Steelers, who have a good defense. I mean, that's why I feel a little bit better, because we didn't have a lot of our guys on defense, and they were still making an impact. I'm a little bit surprised about how our defense showed up. Andrew Booth played well. I mean, you had a lot of guys step up, and Donovan Wilson was out there making plays. I mean, we had to have games like that out of our young guys. And also, like, going back to the Romo thing, Romo led the league in fourth quarter game-winning drives from 2006 to 2014. Dak Prescott's doing the same thing. But what it comes down to is they can't win the big game and they can't win the Super Bowl. So as long as they are doing those things, I'm not really bought in completely. But, I mean, it's going to be a little bit for me until these guys can show me, like, hey, we're like a legit team. Like, I know 3-2 is not like the worst thing we could be in right now. But I'm just saying Dak Prescott's late game heroics. I mean, I'm not overreacting to that. And I'm not going to say he's better than Brock Purdy or some of these other quarterbacks in the league, because He just hasn't been to the big game. He hasn't even been to an NFC title game. I mean, we know he can put up great stats during the regular season. I mean, arguably last year he had an MVP year statistically. So I don't care what he does during the regular season. Yeah, was that a good win? 4th and goal, 20 seconds left. You need to make a throw. He did it. I want to see him do that, but I want to see him do it in the 3rd quarter, in the 2nd quarter, in the 1st quarter, and convert on 1st down all the time. And also 3rd down, because we do tend to start games off on 3 and out a lot. And we are still one of the worst defenses in the league against the run. So we still got to fix that. But we did do a little bit better. We did have 11 penalties, though, for 87 yards, which we still need to clean those up a little bit. We did have a couple false starts that pushed us back. I mean, we had like 2 false starts in a row one time, which really, I think it's just because of the youth of our offensive linemen. I mean, Tyler Smith is in his 2nd year, and then Tyler Guyton's in his 1st year. So, I mean, we don't have a lot of experience, but we do still have guys like Zach Martin who have a lot of experience, and Terrence Steele. So I like our offensive line, and I like what the future holds. But what is going on with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott? Is there like miscommunication like every play, or is it just me? Like I feel like they're never on the same page. It seems like every time CeeDee gets a bunch of targets in the 1st quarter, Dak will throw his way, and then it'll be inaccurate. Or there was also one play, like Zeke was running like a little shallow route, and then CeeDee Lamb was over the top, wide open, but Dak threw it over Zeke's head, and Zeke just ducked. But it looked like I didn't even know who he was trying to throw the ball to. I mean, I'm assuming it was Zeke, because he wasn't really trying to throw it to CeeDee Lamb from what it looked like in my vantage point. But our offensive line did a decent job holding TJ Watt like down. I mean, yeah, he still got his 100th sack of his career, but I mean, that's just a great player. I mean, by the way, TJ Watt is the fastest player to 100 sacks in NFL history. He did it in 109 games. So that's very, very impressive. Very impressive. I mean, we know he's arguably the best pass rusher in the league. I mean, there's a couple guys you can throw in there. But Cowboys, we got the Lions. And Marshawn Nealon, the guy I was talking about who got hurt, he did tear his meniscus, not his ACL. So he is banged up there. We're still waiting for Deron Bland to come back. He's still supposed to come back in like 2 weeks, I think, or something like that. So we're still waiting for some key pieces on our defense to come back. But, hey, we got the win when we weren't supposed to, so I'll take it. Honestly, I'll take the dub. And let's move on to another topic here. Devante Adams trade rumors. Where is Devante Adams going to go? I think there's a couple places he could go. I think he could go to the Saints and go play for Derek Carr, who he wanted to play with. That's the whole reason he went to Las Vegas was, hey, in my hometown, I get to play with my quarterback who I played with in college, and then, the Raiders cut him, and now he's on the Saints. I think that could be a good trade destination. I mean, the Saints are 2-3. They did just lose to the Chiefs, but, I mean, they've had moments in their offense where they looked really good. I mean, first couple weeks of the season, they were the top 2 scoring offense in the league. So, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, the potential is there, and they also have a lot of other receivers. So I think Devante would be getting a lot of one-on-one coverage, and that team would be good. Obviously, another destination is the Jets. They really need him. Like, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's ever needed a player this badly in his career. I'll say that. I mean, he's coming off one of the worst games in his NFL career against the Vikings. He threw 2 interceptions in the 1st quarter, and then he threw 3 for the entire game and 1 to lose in the game when they were on a game-winning drive to tie it, or whatever. It wasn't a game-winning drive, but a drive to tie it. So they had opportunities, and the Jets, I think they're in a little bit of issues here.
Obviously, that was below my standard. I just found out I've never thrown 2 picks in the 1st quarter before. So that's a first. One of us cost, obviously, 7. And the other, could have cost 3. So in a game where you lose by 6, plays like that are exponentially highlighted. So 3 turnovers for me is definitely out of character, and I'm disappointed.
So the Jets have the 25th ranked scoring offense in the league, averaging 18.6 points per game. The Jets have the 27th ranked offense, averaging 286.6 yards per game. And the Jets are the worst rushing offense in the NFL, 80.4 yards per game. Worse than Dallas. Worse than Dallas. And they have a better running back. Breece Hall is really good, and he only has 197 yards rushing. Or through 5 games? Dog, that ain't gonna cut it. Are you serious? And then on top of that, Robert Saleh gets fired. He gets fired. And there's all this tension going on with him and Rodgers. I think that was real. I think Rodgers genuinely didn't like his play calling or his coaching style. It just seemed like the miscommunication was always there with those two guys. And when quarterback and head coach are not on the same page, obviously you're not going to kick Aaron Rodgers to the curb. So why don't you kick Robert Saleh, who's had 6 different starting quarterbacks since he's been the Jets head coach? So, I mean, you have to make a decision there. And he also had a 35% winning percentage, which ranks the worst in Jets franchise history among coaches with a minimum of 40 games at the helm. That is bad. And the only reason they gave him a pass last year is because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. And they did said that Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, is not going to be the interim head coach for the rest of the season. Which, why would you say he's the interim head coach for the rest of the season? Go get Bill Belichick. Go get him. He's available. I mean, he's there. He's the greatest coach in NFL history. You might as well go grab him. I mean, what's the worst case? Bill and Aaron don't get along? I mean, is that really what we're worried about? I wouldn't be worried about that. He's better than Robert Saleh, and he's still a very defensive-minded head coach, but he also has a lot of offensive scheme that he can bring in, what he was doing with Brady. And Rodgers, at this stage in his career, where he's 41 years of age, I mean, he can afford to stand in the pocket and do these things. So if I'm the Jets, I'm going to go get Bill Belichick. That's the move. That's the move right now. You have to make this move because it's not about the weight, because you have no weight when you have a guy of Aaron Rodgers' stature at his age. He doesn't have, his expiration date is coming up soon. So you don't have time to wait. And you have a Super Bowl caliber defense. You have Quinnen Williams, who's one of the best defensive tackles in football. You have Sauce Gardner, who's arguably the best corner in football. They have all the pieces. They also have Garrett Wilson, Al Lazard, and I mentioned Breece Hall, who's been drastically underperforming. So the Jets need to figure this out because they clearly have the roster, and the coach may have been the issue, but maybe it won't be. Maybe it won't be. I mean, I just mentioned the stats with Saleh, but I mean, God, I mean, that record is not just because of Rodgers, it's because he's just been unfortunate at quarterback, and they've had trash quarterbacks. So they need to figure it out. And they got the Bills on Monday night, and that's not a good matchup. That is not a good matchup at all. And the Vikings, they've been killing it. They're 5-0. And they didn't even play that well. Sam Darnold only completed not even 20 passes. So, and they only scored, they started the game up 17-0. And they didn't even score a touchdown until the second half in the fourth quarter. So the Jets had opportunities. They just kept shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, that's all they continue to do. That's all they continue to do. I mean, I will give Rodgers his flowers a little bit. He is the 9th player in NFL history to reach 60,000 passing yards. Congratulations. He also passed Dan Marino for passing yards regular season and postseason. So that's a big accomplishment. But let's move on to this week's play of the week. We got a pretty spectacular catch here. So I just want you guys to see this play.
Flacco started hot before this Jacksonville defense was able to tighten the clamps. Flacco into some tight spaces, and that is caught. Alec Pierce somehow in traffic against Buster Brown. The pickup of 24. Unbelievable.
That's just great concentration.
Yeah, there were a lot of good plays this week, honestly. There was a 102-yard fumble returned for a touchdown. And then Pat Surtain returned a pick six for 100 yards. I mean, there were a lot of good plays this week. But that one was different. That was different. He was juggling it around. It was like he was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like he was playing handball or something like that, and he was trying to flick it back to him. I mean, or he's doing that drill with the basketball where he's trying to keep his fingers on it. I mean, that's the one way I could explain it. But Alec Pierce, man, I mean, he had himself a day. He had 3 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, that was he put up a pretty good effort against the Jaguars. The Colts still lost, and the Jaguars got their first win, which I don't know why it took him this long. I mean, it shouldn't have taken them this long. I mean, this is ridiculous. But, I mean, the Jags are still tied for the worst record in the NFL with teams like the Browns, Patriots, Rams, Bengals, which we're about to talk about, and the Panthers. So the Colts, I think, needed to win that game. Joe Flacco was the quarterback. Anthony Richardson, I don't think he's ever going to be able to stay healthy. But the Bengals, man, they are 1-4. 1-4. And Joe Burrow threw for 392 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Ravens. I mean, they put up 38 points. This is their 3rd game of the season where they've put up 30. And they're 1-2 in those games. 1-2. That is bad. I mean, when you score that many points, you have to capitalize. And most of it is not on the Bengals offense, because the Bengals have the 4th highest scoring offense in the NFL. The Bengals defense is 31st in points allowed. 29 points per game. That Bengals defense needs to figure it out. I mean, they really don't have any secondary. I mean, that was a concern coming in, but they don't have anybody that can cover a receiver, it seems like. They're always letting up yards. They can't rush the passer. I mean, they can't do a lot of things on defense. And you're relying on Joe Burrow to go throw for 400 yards, and you still lose? I mean, that can't happen. And is this Bengals team a Super Bowl team? I can't answer that. So let's go to another guy who can.
We're not a championship level team right now. We're not. I like to think that, we'll come back and improve throughout the season to get to that point. But right now we are not, and we have to get better.
Yeah, he's definitely right. They got to get better. They got to get better, man. I mean, I don't know what it is, but we explained it. It's their defense. The Ravens have really turned around their season. I mean, give credit to them. Lamar Jackson looks fantastic. He looks very comfortable in the pocket throwing the football. I think we can push this narrative aside that Lamar Jackson can't pass in the pocket. I mean, is he a pocket passer? No, but he's shown he can be. So I really do think that the Bengals can figure this out. I don't think it's over for them. They play the Giants on Sunday Night Football this week. I think they're going to win that game. I think they're going to put up a bunch of points. But, I mean, it's just kind of disheartening the way they lost that game. I mean, they had the ball in overtime. They got it first. Evan McPherson missed a field goal after Lamar Jackson fumbled it. So they had a chance to win the game, and then the Ravens won it. I mean, they had opportunities. They had chances, and they just couldn't close it. They couldn't close it out. I mean, it was just nuts. Like, I mean, it was 700 passing yards and 9 passing touchdowns were in this game between these two quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I mean, that was a fantastic game. I think that was the best game of this week. I think it was. I mean, we're talking 41-38 overtime. It comes down to Lamar Jackson fumbling it. Bengals get it back, miss a field goal. Ravens get it back, and then they kick a field goal after a 55-yard run by Derrick Henry. So, yeah, some of these games, the Bengals just haven't been able to pull it out because they get outgunned on offense, and their defense can't make any stops. So that's what the Bengals need to really focus on is their defense. And one team that I think is a Super Bowl contender right now is the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, Kirk Cousins threw for 509 yards, which, by the way, is a Falcons franchise record. And he tied his career high with 4 touchdowns. He was out there balling. Kirk Cousins was cooking. That's why you gave this man $180 million. Right there. That performance right there is why you give this man $180 million. And Kyle Pitts finally showed up, but it wasn't just him. It was Drake London. It was Tyler Algier. It was Bijan Robinson. Darnell Mooney stepped up. Ray McLeod has been surprisingly very good this season for the Falcons. I mean, they have a lot of offensive weapons, and their offensive line is giving Kirk Cousins enough time to sit in the pocket, go through his progressions, and do his thing. That's all you can really ask for them to do, and they're doing their job. And also, Kirk Cousins is now among only 14 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw for more than 500 yards in a game. You want to know who threw the most yards in a game? Norm Van Brocklins in 1951. He threw for 554 yards. So Kirk Cousins is in elite company there. So I picked the Falcons to win the division before the season, and I really think they will. And credit to the Buccaneers. I mean, they really played well in that Thursday night game. I mean, Baker is a starting quarterback, and he's an above average one, to give you that. He makes the right reads. He doesn't turn the football over. I mean, I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's coming to Tampa Bay and really proven himself. Really proven himself. But the Falcons just played better. And Kirk Cousins has been doing different things. I mean, he's won 2 primetime games this year. I mean, that's not normal for him. Everyone used to call Kirk like the choke artist in primetime. Now he's not in the regular season. He's not in the regular season. We'll see if we can translate the postseason, but let's move on to my pick of the week, courtesy of Hard Rock Bets, the only betting app you can use in the state of Florida. You can do player props, you can do money lines, spreads, you can bet on the MLB playoffs right now, NFL, soccer, NBA preseason. I wouldn't recommend betting on the preseason, but let's get into my picks. So I'm picking the Seahawks at plus 140 to beat the 49ers in Seattle during Thursday Night Football. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because, one, the 49ers are 0-3 against the NFC this year, which is not good at all. I mean, they're 2-3. And also, they don't have Christian McCaffrey. Without Christian McCaffrey, I mean, this offense has looked so stale. There's not a lot of versatility. Brock Purdy gets uncomfortable quickly. And not to mention, Christian McCaffrey isn't just good in the run and the pass game. He's good in pass protection. He's good at protecting the quarterback. So you need him in there for certain situations. He just brings so... And then when you've got a guy like Christian McCaffrey, defenses will develop schemes just to stop one player. It's easy when you've got Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. You can game plan for those guys easier when you take a guy like Christian McCaffrey off the field, who is the best running back in the NFL. So that's a big deal. The 49ers are really missing him right now. And yes, I know the Seahawks lost against the Giants. I know that. But it's at Seattle. And I think Seattle is not going to fall to 3-3. I don't think so. I think Seattle has good weapons. I like Kenneth Walker. I like DK Metcalf. Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's really, really good. And then also Tyler Lockett. I mean, they still have a bunch of weapons, and Geno Smith can manage the game. And I believe he's going to manage the game and beat this San Francisco defense. But the San Francisco defense is tough. I'm not saying they aren't, but it is tough. But San Francisco is blowing leads. I mean, they lost to the Cardinals. The Cardinals. They blew a 13-point lead to the Cardinals, who just got blown out by the Washington Commanders the week prior. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. It doesn't. Like, that doesn't, this is not the normal San Francisco team I've seen. And when you've got a team who's been to the Super Bowl this many times, has been this close and lost, that's heartbreaking. And that can really shift the locker room. And when you have 3 losses like that in your conference, it's big. And I think without McCaffrey, the NFC losing streak for the 49ers will continue. Now, last thing before we end the pod here, I'm going to give you my top 5 NFL teams after week 5. I'm going to give you a quick, okay? Number 5, Detroit Lions. They're coming off a bye. I think they're one of the most balanced teams in the league. I mean, they have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in the backfield. They have a very good offensive line. They also have a good defense. Terrion Arnold is a good corner. Aiden Hutchinson, he's also one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I mean, I like this team a lot. A lot. There's a lot of things they can really do. And also on the offensive side of the ball, Jamison Williams has been absolutely sensational. I mean, this guy is an absolute speedster. I mean, they can put him on jet sweeps. They could put him in the slot. They can do a lot of different things with them, which also opens up the passing game more for Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Jared Goff, I mean, in the last game against the Seahawks, went perfect. He had 100% completion percentage. That's good. So I like the Lions at 5. The Commanders at 4. We know Jaden Daniels. They're building a strong foundation with that man. They're building a strong foundation with that man. He continues to sling the ball down the field, and he has the trust and the belief of this entire coaching staff and this entire team. Because there was a play in their last game where it was like, oh, I want to go down the field. It was against the Cleveland defense, okay, who's like really struggled. And Jaden Daniels is running from the sideline and telling, hey, Cliff Kingsbury, let's take a shot. He trusts Jaden. He takes a shot. So I'm like, okay, they believe in this man. That's all you need. And also, this is a little bit of a long shot for Devante Adams, but keep an eye on the Washington Commanders. Keep an eye on it. Now let's go to number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. They're still playing good football. They started 0-2, but they've rebounded. They've won 3 in a row. I like Lamar Jackson's resiliency against some of these top teams in the league. He's really showcased his ability, like I kind of talked about later. And then number 2, the Minnesota Vikings. They're 5-0. They're playing really good football right now. Their offense is really good. Aaron Jones did get injured. He's got that hip injury, but I'm sure he'll come back. Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league. They also still have Jordan Addison. Sam Darnold has been playing really good football to start the year. So I like the Vikings. They're shocking a lot of people right now. I didn't think they'd be leading the NFC North going into week 6. And then number 1, this hasn't changed for me at all. The Kansas City Chiefs. They're undefeated as well. They're down with Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, they're down offensive weapons, and they're still figuring out ways to win. Kareem Hunt stepped up big time. He's been leading the backfield. Carson Steele as well. He's been coming in as a rookie. He's been doing some things. And this Chiefs defense is still really good. I mean, you still got Chris Jones, who is arguably one of the best pass rushers in the league as well. And then you got Patrick Mahomes. And whether Kelsey keeps doing his thing or not, we'll see. But, I mean, without Rashee Rice, he's going to have to. So, and he's the best tight end in the league regardless. So I think you can rely on him. But those are my top 5 teams in the league right now. But this is going to go ahead and do it for today's episode of The Take. I'm Jackson Burleson. Of course, hit the like button, subscribe, comment, and also hit the notification bell. I'm sorry that I was supposed to drop yesterday, but I ended up leaving Orlando, which is where I live, because of the hurricane. I wasn't going to stay there for that. They were saying we're going to get like 10 inches of rain and then like 110 mile an hour wind. So I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So I decided to go a little farther south, but we're going to be going back there Friday to see what's going on. But keep everyone in your prayers. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The Take, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Broadway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my